Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing into something really fascinating, the literal operating system of, well, absolutely everything. We're diving headfirst into Thomas Sowell's massive 700-page masterpiece, Basic Economics, to finally decode how the entire world actually works behind the scenes.
A lot of people think economics is just about money or complex math or super boring graphs, but it's not. It is the operating system for literally everything we do. There's this great quote that hits the nail on the head. Once you learn economics, you can't be manipulated anymore. Once you actually understand the hidden gears turning behind the scenes, you're pretty much impossible to fool. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to cover 6 laws of everything today. Rewards over intentions, the cost of choices, how prices are honest signals, how profits and losses guide us, why wages equal value created, and finally, how trade makes everyone richer. These apply just as much to global trade policies as they do to your own daily habits.
Starting off with Law 1, rewards over intentions, or why our best-laid plans so often backfire.
Let's look at our real-world example from the state of Maryland back in 2008. So, Maryland had a money problem. They had about 8,000 resident millionaires, and the state's intention was totally straightforward. Just raise their taxes to collect an extra $106 million a year. Boom! Problem solved, right? Well, actually, no. What they inadvertently did was reward those millionaires for leaving, so they moved. And they packed up their businesses, their restaurants, and their jobs right along with them.
The mathematical result here is just staggering. By year 2, instead of gaining that $106 million, 2,000 of those millionaires had simply vanished. Maryland actually ended up losing $257 million in total tax revenue. Talk about a plan backfiring. The rule is, don't ask what you intend, ask what you are rewarding. And what's really fascinating is how this applies directly to, well, everything in your life. People respond to rewards, not intentions. So whether you're looking at your business, your team at work, or even your personal relationships, you got to look at them strictly through the lens of what behaviors you're actually rewarding, not what you just wish people would do.
All right, moving right along to Law 2, the cost of choices, and the hidden math behind every single decision.
Here's the thing, every single choice involves a trade-off. If you drop $10 on a coffee, that's $10 you literally cannot spend on a burger or a movie. You can only use a resource once. Let's say you buy a $50,000 BMW. Beautiful car, for sure. But if you bought a $20,000 Toyota Corolla instead and invested the $30,000 difference, over 30 years that money becomes almost $250,000. So that BMW didn't just cost you 50 grand. Its true cost, the opportunity cost, is basically $250,000.
Remember, economics isn't just about what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Your time, your energy, your money. They can only be spent once. This perfectly explains why a country like Venezuela, which sits on massive oil reserves, is broke, while Switzerland, with virtually zero natural resources in the ground, is one of the wealthiest countries on Earth. It is entirely about resource allocation.
Which brings us to Law 3. Prices are honest signals. Think of this as the invisible network keeping the whole world alive.
Just think about a slice of pizza for a second. The milk, the cheese, the tomatoes, they're all distributed flawlessly across thousands of towns every single day, and there's absolutely no central human planner telling them where to go. There's actually this incredible story where Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev visited Britain and asked Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher how she makes sure her people get food. Her answer was incredibly profound. She just said, "I don't. Prices do." Prices are the honest signals that coordinate global supply. No human brain or supercomputer could ever track those millions of daily variables, but prices, they do it automatically.
But when we step in and try to artificially control these signals, the whole system breaks. Take rent control in New York City, for example. When politicians step in to cap rent to keep things affordable, demand immediately spikes. Step 1, people hoard apartments they don't really need. Step 2, landlords completely stop fixing buildings because they literally can't cover the maintenance costs. And the mathematical result? Roofs rot, and you end up with thousands of abandoned buildings sitting entirely empty in a city struggling with homelessness.
And we see this happen globally, no matter who's in charge. When you artificially force prices too low, like Zimbabwe did with food, store shelves empty out in hours, farmers stop selling, and you get massive shortages. On the flip side, if you set prices artificially high, like India did with guaranteed wheat prices, farmers overproduce. You end up with 11 million tons of wheat just rotting in warehouses while people elsewhere are starving. The system just completely breaks. And, neutrally speaking, The harsh reality here is that manipulating prices always ensures the poorest suffer the most, while the wealthy just find workarounds.
Let's move on to Law 4, Profits and Losses Guide. This is essentially the economy's brutally honest feedback loop.
Now, profits and losses are not moral judgments. They're just directional feedback, telling society what it needs to do next. Think of the macroeconomy kind of like a middle school lunch table. If you trade fruit snacks and get a profit, that's the market saying, yes, people want this, absolutely do more of it. But if you try to trade unwanted raisins and nobody takes them, you take a loss. That is a clear mathematical signal screaming, no, nobody wants this, stop doing it immediately.
The really hidden truth here is that losses are actually incredibly valuable because they free up resources. When a failing company shuts down, its engineers, its steel, its electricity, they're all freed up to go make something people actually want. Bailing out failing companies just breaks this crucial feedback loop. And for you personally, this means you should probably brutally cut your own bleeding side projects. Don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as reclaiming your time and energy for way better, more productive uses.
And that leads right into Law 5, Wages equal value created. This is the brutal but very honest math of hiring.
Ever wonder why nurses and construction workers make different amounts? Pay actually isn't about the time you spend working. It is strictly based on the value you create. Let's use a lemonade stand to see the math clearly. Say you hire Maria. She's fast, she's friendly, and she helps you sell $10 of extra lemonade every hour. She creates $10 of value so you can afford to pay her up to $10. Then there's Jake. Jake is slow, he's scrolling on his phone, he spills drinks. He only generates $2 extra of value. If you pay Jake more than $2, you are literally losing money every single hour he stands there. It isn't mean, it's just math. But what happens when we try to force the math? If a business is mandated to pay a minimum wage of $15 an hour to a worker who only generates $10 of value, well, the business loses $5 every single hour. And they aren't just going to sit there and take the loss forever. What do? They buy a self-checkout machine. They cut hours. Ultimately, an employer is paying for results, not just for your time.
All right, let's move to our 6th and final law. Trade makes everyone richer. It's all about winning by doubling down on your strengths. It is totally time we shift our perspective on trade from being this zero-sum war to a cooperative equation. Think about it like this. You've got half a sandwich, your friend has a slice of pizza. You trade. Did the total amount of food in the room change? No. But are both of you happier? Yes! And that is trade in a nutshell. It's not some game with winners and losers, it's a scenario where both of you instantly become better off without actually creating any extra stuff.
And this exact same math applies to entire countries trading with each other. Even if one country is literally better at making absolutely everything, trade still helps both sides. Take a lawyer who earns $300 an hour, but just happens to be fantastic at cleaning. Should they clean their own office? No way. Mathematically, they benefit immensely by paying a cleaner $20 an hour so they can spend that exact same hour doing $300 legal work. Both the lawyer and the cleaner end up far richer through this exchange.
You can absolutely connect this macro trade principle directly back to your daily life. Stop spending hours on admin work, or answering emails, or messing with spreadsheets that you hate and are bad at. That is an hour stolen right from your strengths. Double down on what works. Focus your energy on what you do best and outsource the rest. That is the ultimate trade-off for success. Because ultimately, everything, literally everything, comes down to trade-offs. The economy isn't some distant, abstract thing happening on Wall Street. It is the lens through which every single part of our world operates. Now, understanding these 6 laws won't necessarily make you a millionaire overnight, but they will absolutely make you impossible to fool. So as you look at exactly where your time, your energy, and your money are going right now, I want to leave you with one vital question to ponder. What are you trading off today?